Next, we are thrilled to welcome Dr. Amol Patil, Adjunct Professor from the Somaiya Institute of Management. With an extensive background in management of sports performance, Professor Amol has been at the forefront from a decade in sports performance, with initial years spent as a team doctor and scientific advisor to the Indian boxing team, advancing to consulting to Mission Olympic Cell under MYS, and now working as a sports education consultant and an independent medical practice. Today, he will be presenting on how empowering education and integrating APIs into the university curriculum from a holistic learning experience. We are excited to listen to his thoughts, his insights on this important subject. We welcome you, Doctor.
Thank you, Amy, for a kind introduction. Um so I'll just have a small presentation on this topic. As you know that the industry is growing by leaps and bounds, and we have recent reports which says that India is touching $100 billion industry in sports, and sooner it will be a reality. We are moving into a space where sports tech has a great role in the development and supporting the growth of a sports industry in the country at the moment. When I talk about sports tech, the background of or the backbone of this technology companies is the API, which is application programming interfaces. And that plays a really crucial role in the data exchange and automation of the entire workflows and processes. And obviously integrating the systems, using data from third party applications. So these APIs basically seamlessly integrate and keep the database up to date and reliably, secure, so that we can foster innovations in sports related applications, which are either performance oriented or maybe they are oriented towards the fan engagement and ticketing and other aspects of the industry. We now know that the global sports technology market is projected to reach 36.2 billion by 2025, and you can see the significant contribution which API has in this particular thing, because when we talk about technology, API always becomes the backbone of all this process. And it real time facilitates the data access, which is absolutely crucial for applications which ranges from live scoreboards, maintaining the weather reports, to match analytics, to a lot of processes are involved into the sports applications. Even match analysis has to get the data from reliable sources, and then they integrate and then they can reflect it so that a decision can be taken. So data driven decision making is also influenced by these APIs, which plays a crucial role. Maintaining player profiles and updates on the sports websites and mobile apps also is facilitated by these APIs. So that cell tells us that what is exact application of these APIs. And when I talk about the role of APIs in sports industry, we know that real-time data analytics, which enables the live scores I just mentioned before, is just a recap of that. Based on that, we can have player performance and player stats. Even when you see auctions which are happening in IPL or ISL or all those matches, you need a data to back on those decisions. And this is all done by the APIs, which collect the information from various sources which are available in free domain or even in restricted domain if you have a paid access to those things. And such apps actually collect the data, and based on that you can form your own metrics, and based on that the player auction can also enable. I mean, this is something, a real tool which has changed over last 2 decades, I would say. And we are seeing the application with AI coming in forefront. The applications are fourfold because the amount of data available is now very vast, and it takes huge time to manually reach out to that data. So therefore API plays a great role, because it just fetches the data from a database which is remotely available, or which is even the open sources available, and then you can consolidate it one platform, and then you have a dashboard which is built, which can show you a data in more informatic way, so that you can take decisions at the end of the day. Similarly, I also talked about fan engagement and digital experiences. So you now have a lot of mobile applications and OTT platforms. Even the fantasy leagues are coming in, and all these things. So yesterday I was just seeing that some people were saying that, okay, I also made a team, and my team had particular cricket player, XYZ player in place, and even that is mimicking the real scores which are happening right now. So this is kind of level that we have reached in, that when an actual match is being played, the similar experience is given by the fantasy leagues and fantasy apps which are into uh, in process in the market, and the data is real time sync, and you can actually play, you can bet on it, and that's where the betting industry is coming or leading to us. The sports operations involving ticketing and scheduling of these matches are also digitized these days, and you can see a lot of data being incorporated through APIs. Simple thing I will tell you, your face recognition plays a great role, and to avoid the duplication of tickets, nowadays face recognition is being used as an advanced security layer, and API plays a great role for doing all those kind of verifications, so that there is no duplication of tickets. Similarly, athlete management and venue operations, they are all becoming smart stadiums these days, and everywhere the backend process is backed by API, and those APIs are very crucial. We'll come into picture. We'll come into subsequent part where we'll discuss about what are the skills required for that. But just going through the next segment, which is wearable industry, and I'll tell you that this industry is booming huge in last 10 years, I would say, because we are all concentrating on the performance side of the players. I myself have been working with the industry where performance is being explored, and my job was to secure or to work on the athlete's performance and to help him figure out strategies for enhancing performance. And therefore, we use the wearable data like heart rate monitors, the GPS data, accelerometers, even the motion sensors using IMU units. All these are giving us data about different parts of the body. Some give them the data about human posture, some give them the biomechanics, some tells us about what is the condition of heart, some tells us about what is the load, some tells us about what is the variable speed during that time, the GPS and everything. So all this data actually, when we compute together, this is done in through a computer, and we get to know at one dashboard, and that's where we take a decision. Today, I'm lucky that I have this dashboard because I have the APIs in place which are fetching data from 10 different sources and giving me a picture in one window. If I have to talk about 20 years back down the time, this was not possible. And you see the performance has evolved or is enhancing to a great extent. And I would say in terms of percentage also, the improvement is huge because the data has been able to be captured in one place, and we have a dashboard which where we can see the data and decisions can be taken. 20 years back the time, all the work has to be done manually, and there was a huge data manually. It was not impossible, it was impossible, so there were huge manpower employed for doing the same task. Now we just sit in front of the computer and the screen, and we get everything at one place. That's the beauty of the APIs that we are seeing today, and that's the real power that has powered the revolution in the sports industry. If I've talked about only sports industry, because there are other applications also, I'm not going to that details, but just talk about health industry and the sports industry, and the med tech innovation and the sports tech innovation that is happening. And here the data is being projected or being brought in, so that we can take decisions. Betting and esports, it's an upcoming market. Even I don't have huge knowledge about it, but what I can know is, if you want to bet on a particular match or a particular score, and you even lag the data by few milliseconds, you might lose on huge money. And that's where the internet connectivity, apart from internet connectivity, I think the integration of data in real time is important. Therefore, the APIs which do that have to be more reliable. The data cannot be leaked out for security reasons. At the same time, you get the information firsthand. Those all are the challenges involved in it, and I think we are seeing the some of the sports, what you can say, coding people or the engineers who are involved in this process doing fantastic jobs building great applications, who are having varied applications in the industry. So one thing we agree now is that there is a growing need of API integration skills, because the industry is expanding. There is a huge demand for data driven decision making. And for this data driven decision making, we require the data to be collated at one place. And how better to do that? Using APIs. The cross disciplinary relevance is also important. You need business insights to be getting from those APIs about to devise what are the fan engagement strategies. So management students and management professionals in the sports industry heavily rely on this data about consumer behavior, about how the fans will be engaged in a particular match, in a particular event will drive the flow, what is the influencer that is going to affect the particular sale of tickets in a particular place. And that's how API is going to help them to make those decisions, and one right decision will help to boost revenue in that stream. Similarly, there are certain applications which are designed by the engineering grads, and they are actually solving real-time problems in performance sciences about the sports industry. Now, it is possible for us to virtually actually 3D render the image from a video which is taken now, and then we can actually reverse map the biomechanics of a person and then take a decision based on what was his angle good, was the movement efficient in biomechanics in 3D space, or there's something can be done more. And this is all possible because of these APIs and action points which are there. And obviously the sports science students or the sports science grads which are at the end or receiving end of these inputs which are created by the engineers and the management students, so they just apply the data into their wearable technology and take decisions so that they can help the teams to perform better. So this is how I see as a student interdisciplinary relevance of these API skills. We see, if you just Google it, and you will see there are a lot of job roles which are coming in terms of data analyst or sports tech developers with required skills of certain API skills. And even the API product manager roles are coming in the industry with a very good pay packages, crossing your conventional your dream of getting a six figure salary is coming true because of these all APIs coming in market. And that's where I see that educational institutions should include these skills as a part of learning experiences, so that we can have better human resources for future, who are futuristic ready and who know how to handle the data and how to handle it through APIs. When I talk about management institutions, I feel that they will be greatly benefited by including API integration studies or in their curriculums, so that they can improve their employability for the students. This can be fostered by you bringing academics and industry people together, so that there is industry partnerships, and there's a huge sports tech companies out there who require the manpower as well as the interns from these management institutions who can work closely with them and can solve the real world problems in terms of the business analytics insights, and in terms of the fan engagement problems, in terms of the ticketing, in terms of the venue operations. All those processes can be digitized. I mean, they're already being digitized, but they can be more efficiently handled, and you can increase the ROIs by reducing the human power, human resources involved in it. Obviously, there is supposed to happen a lot of innovation and research to make new business models based on our learnings today. And obviously, this will also boost entrepreneurial opportunities in coming years. And we can see smart stadiums coming across India as well with the advent of technologies. What we can see in the engineering students is, because these people are directly involved in product building and product development, their experience is quite crucial. Their hands-on learning with the real API implementations is something which will be strengthening the industry itself. They can bring the collaboration of medical students and science students together to develop certain performance linked APIs, and then can contribute directly through these applications for enhancement of performance, and that can help people like me to actually use at the end of the solution and just do my part of interpreting the data. So that's all possible because we have some smart brains, some engineering scholars doing that part at the back end. Obviously, AI and blockchain is going to revolutionize the entire industry. And I always say that security, transparency, and automation in sports tech will only be possible because, these things are in place. And this is where certain people can seek job opportunities in future if they know these skills. And that's where I come across that you should know at least 10 important API skills as a part of your curriculum, so that you can improvise your employability. And I feel that every management and engineering college should foster the students to learn, or should urge the students to learn a basic course in API skills, so that they are aware about what are APIs and what is their application, and how varied application that can have. And at the end of the day, they can be able to build small applications with certain integration with different database or sources, external database sources, and thus can improve their employability at the end of the day. Because India, we do not want people who are job seekers. We want people who are entrepreneurs, who are job creators. And nowadays, and if you can have these skills, maybe you can work on a very good startup idea and can, run your own startup and can be at the forefront, leading the industry at some or the other place. And that's where I feel the 10 skills that you should know. I'm just going to enumerate and talk about each of these skills in a very brief way, so that we try to do justice to the time as well as to the topic in a in a very concise way. So the first skill that I feel is reading the API documentation. You should know what your product is supposed to do and what is the endpoint and what is the expectation out of it. Just can't write and go on coding the thing. So most of the students, if you're given a task, they just try go and type on the codes. That's not possible. You need to have exact understanding of how the function will happen, where is the database located, where is the data to be imported, where is the application to be built, on which server you need to be in, on what is the interacting mechanisms or the transacting value which is to be covered, what is the level of security you need to have, and all those things you need to have first understanding about the entire documentation process, because it will save time and it will reduce the errors that are going to be committed, or not intentionally, but unintentional errors can also be eliminated in the process. So therefore, you will always cover endpoints, authentication, requests, and responses in terms of the data language that I'm talking about. Maybe sometime it will be more technical terms, but yes, that is required to understand these basic skills. The next part that I feel is understanding URL and endpoints. This is again an important skills. You should know URLs are web-based addresses for a resources. So when you locate a resource, you need to have a URL for that resource. An endpoint is something which is specific URL for an API integration. So endpoint is something which is an application. You just paste that endpoint and then you have a integration done. So unless and until you have these two understanding about these two, you cannot go further in this process. Therefore, to retrieve the data from a targeted source, you need to have an understanding of URL and endpoints, and therefore only then the connection can be secure and scalable at later stages. HTTP, you have to talk to that HTTP so that you can make a request whether to fetch a data or to send a data. So this is kind of a communication, and this communication is through a part of an API communication. It is absolutely essential for accessing and manipulating the data in the database that we are maintaining, or through an external data source that we are connected. Nowadays, we gone are the days when you actually have a huge space on your computer. You will see now your computers are also getting smaller, faster, with less hard disk spaces, because everything is on cloud, everything is in real time, and this is all possible because of the API integrations. And thanks to this communication form that we have established, and the speed of internet that has given us in this decade, I think we don't require huge data storage points at our end. We just have to connect with the database and dump the data at that place, which is secure, which is easily accessible, easily retrievable, and you can access from any remote location. Authentication and security, again, this is one of the segment or the skill of API, which can be a really great field to explore for people who are working, who specifically work with security and authentication parts. So there are large number of startups or large number of engineers involved in this process, because since it's involved with security of the data and authentication of the data, I think even the packages are also very high in this kind of roles. So you have biometric verification, or maybe you have a social media verification, like you sign in through Google, you sign in through social media like Facebook, and maybe you can have a conventional password based authentication, or maybe a facial recognition, or maybe any SSO or SSL certificate as a part of verification process. So these are different verifications which are available. You simply a program which can connect these places and check whether these authentications are followed when you are entering into a database or when you are accessing a database, and that will keep the data secure to a greater extent. And this is always important to protect the sensitive information that we have. we might hear sometimes that the data breach has happened, so and so amount of data has been leaked. Who has done that? What happened? This is something which is a failure of an API, or failure of one security feature of this particular process, which has lead to this lapse. If you can firewall all these things, you can prevent the data leak. If you can code in such a way. So that's why I go to the step one, that you need to have a clear understanding of documentation process, so that you can visualize the entire process clearly, and then maybe devise your own security levels and verification methods. So once that is done, the next important skill remains the interpreting of API responses. So there are different codes. I'm not familiar with this thing, but then there are different codes, 200, 404. These are certain errors or certain codes which are responsible for fetching a query with the database. And if you are going through that, if the verification is successful, you get an access to that. If it is not, then you get a data error, that error 404. So you just tell your engineer, okay, I'm getting an error of 404. What does it mean? So he just tell, okay, you give me an access and I'll just do that. What he does, he just tries to correct the query in API, integration, which is the program which is running the integration program, and then you can get a clarity, or you can access the data easily. So that's the process of debugging and error handling. And again, this is a very great skill in entire APIs. The next big skill is handling JSON data. And JSONs, you must be seeing that there are certain files which are stored in your computer as a temporary file, .json. And that's a dominant data format for API integration, because it's very easy to read, less space consumed, and very fast to operate. So it's used for exchanging with AI models and other services these days. Therefore, .json data files are most commonly used nowadays. Now we don't, I mean, yes, obviously the conventional Excel and all are there, but nowadays the data formats are stored because there's huge data involved, and there is ADI predictive model associated with it. So that's why you need to save a data in a format which is easily accessible, fast to convert the thing. And that's why JSON files are used. Parameters and filters. So parameters are something which customize the API request, and filters are certain things which actually filter the data based on your preferences. So you need to understand the difference between these two, parameters and filters, because their purpose is different. Parameters are used for interaction purpose, and filters are for narrowing down the datas that are huge in number and amount. uh, on top of that, the scope or level of interaction depends on. Parameter can interact with the entire workbook, whereas filters are applicable only to the worksheet. So that determines that you can actually put filters for certain criterias or certain queries that you have, and parameters can be applicable to the entire workbook. So it depends on the hierarchy, who can see what. So there might be a one entire workbook for an organization. So your senior leadership positions can have access to the entire workbook data, but you being an employee having a restricted department, you can have just access to one worksheet. So that's where the parameters and filters are placing in are playing their great roles. And that's how, even with the same sheet, you can have multiple accesses, authentications and accesses defined in a way for multiple employees of a company. And that's the beauty, that you can see that without doing much work, it's just small code that can define everything, and you can have the integrities in place. Error handling and debugging, yes, errors are part and parcel of the life. So you need somebody to actually troubleshoot all the time, debug all the time. And therefore there are tools which are debugging tools, and certain techniques for handling those errors which are in process nowadays. With the advent of AI, I think these are being automated to most of the extent, and again, APIs are playing great role in that. So you need to learn this skill as well. The next part that we see is rate limits and tokens. So rate limit is basically controlling the frequency of the request that we give to the database about when we're accessing a data, and API tokens are basically granting to the resources. I'll give you a very small example that you know uh, you are so there is a data which is constantly coming in. When you put a request, there is a data coming in, but that rate has to be controlled, otherwise you will be flooded with the data request that is happening. At the same time, the authentication has to be in place so that you will not entertain request further certain points. Otherwise, there will be leakage of data, or the breach of data can happen very easily. Suppose if I am given an access to access a worksheet for certain data, just say that only once I can do that. If I'm given unlimited access, I can actually copy it and download it at my end and keep it. So there will be data breach. So it should not happen that way. That's why the rate and limits are something which puts check and balance, and therefore prevents the overload, fair usage. At the same time, security is being taken care of, and that works on a very simple model. Your supply and demand is met at a rate which is acceptable, and other thing, the restrictions are put in place so that the tokenization or the API tokens take care of how many times the access can be given or granted, and that keeps the entire process flawless. If you ever have a problem or a failure in this particular step, believe me, you will lose all the access of data that you have, and the sensitivity is put in question. So, all people who work with data, APIs and all, they are paying special attention to this particular step and skill for the thing. And the last comes the integration part. We were talking about a lot of API integration in last, I think, 10 to 15 minutes. So once you have all the skills, I think if you put everything together, it comes into the integration part. So there is one final program which you have to run, which integrates API and connects it to the different database. It seems very easy to for us that, okay, you have to just patch a code, and then there is a interaction established between two applications, two softwares, two sites, two databases. But there's a hell lot of process that we discussed before, which is supposed to happen at the back end and work correctly so that we can integrate this data efficiently. And then there is a there is a the output that we are considering on a single dashboard that I was talking about for the data driven decision making, that is possible once the seamless integration is done. So that's where I come across that once you have these 10 skills that are there, you can think of introducing them in the curriculum in colleges, because I come from an academic background, and I feel that these API integration uh, courses, or how to integrate APIs into certain applications, this is a skill which involves a lot of sub skills and sub skill sets that are required. This can be put in together a beautiful course, and the curriculum can be devised. Obviously, we need industry people or the people who are experts in building APIs to be part of this curriculum, and therefore it will be a skill based vocational learning course that can give an edge to the students of any university or any college, any be it any stream. I don't limit it to only management and engineering. I think it should be a universal skill nowadays, because even the commerce students who are working in financial markets or financial industry will require APIs to have that thing. Otherwise, they cannot be updated with the share prices that is crashing in the market. So APIs have become a part and parcel of, I think, every man who is connected to a technology and connected by internet. So that's where the curriculum development will give a fair understanding, and I would say increase the chance of employability in long term. So these skill based training courses, they should be involving practical coding, testing of APIs, and study based learning courses also should be introduced. So these are certain parameters which I feel that can enhance the skill learning. And once the skill is acquired, once you are certified for that skill, maybe the future employers will be looking for those graduates, or those employees, I would say. And the other part is building awareness and competitions in the industry. And what best, you can always have an hackathon and competitions so that we can engage large amount of crowd. And I think bring students on one level. If you can organize a competition, then the API challenges which the world is facing, even those can be mimicked. Tools and models can be built on that, and a lot of intellectual discussions can happen on such forums. I believe even we as a forum is trying to solve this problem by bringing the first hackathon in physical in coming years. I think you should stay connected to the platform so that you hear out what would is the next hackathon, where is it, and what is the agenda for that hackathon. I leave it to Amy to bring it to or for the announcement of that interesting things. But that's surely one way that colleges at individual level should organize hackathons in partnership with the industry people, so that there is a mass awareness at the same time there is a platform for somebody to express their creations and innovations, and thus can build the industry together. uh, Obviously MOUs with sports tech firm can also bring in collaboration part, but that's more on the commercial side. We were talking about the educational side, and therefore hackathons is surely the way. And I think sports first is doing a great job in this. uh, how it will benefit the changing dynamics of sports industry. So basically what I feel, this is my thoughts I've put in words here, that the talent, there is no dearth of talent in India. So we have huge people who are creative and who have a lot of ideas. It's just we have to bridge that talent gap. The people who have understanding of APIs and the people who have the concept, if we can club these two people, maybe we can build bigger solutions, better solutions, and that can revolutionize the industry where we are heading today. Obviously this will bring innovations in terms of new solutions, new engagement strategies, new financial strategies for sports market as well. And it will create a ecosystem which are smart, which are AI powered, which are IoT based, blockchain integrated, and therefore the features will be endless. And ultimate aim is to boost the Indian economy, or to boost the economy of a country. So these startups, these tech companies, and the students, they can together come in and change the entire way we are looking at a sports ecosystem or sports economy at the moment. It's not an industry at the present, but surely it's going to be an industry in next decade, because we are at the start of a place where we are just stepping a stone into this booming industry, which is so called being organized at the moment. It's still in the formation phase, but soon it will be a bigger industry. And the future is really bright for this sports ecosystem. So what I feel at the end, as a concluding remark, API integration is a critical skill for all the people who are looking for a sports career in future. And I feel that educational institutions should adopt these courses which teaches us about API and how to integrate APIs into the applications, so that the industry can benefit from these applications. So it obviously industry aligned things have to be done, and therefore the next step would be to bring collaborations or build collaborations between academics, sports organizations, tech companies, and the stakeholders, so that there is a wide varied application of these services. Again, the consumers are also from the industry itself. So there will, if the collaboration is good, I think even the consumers will get what they actually want and for what they are paying for. So I feel, let's start today, let's prepare our students for sports industry of tomorrow by building or by educating them through these API skills, which are becoming a part or crucial part of the life today. With that, I think I end my presentation, and I believe I've done justice to the topic itself from an academic point of view, and try to build a scenario which emphasizes on this topic, that the skill for tomorrow has to be learned today, and it's not too late to start. So that's why we started today, we start building the skill in our students, and we can expect a better future tomorrow by just doing a small step, initiating it in curriculum.
Absolutely, Dr. Amol. It was a very informative and insightful session. Like there were so many things to the point, explaining about the stakeholders, how it can benefit the students, the tech companies. So it was really like, there was a lot of perspective into the presentation. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for your time.
Thank you, Amy. And I feel that, together we can build a lot of, potential in this industry. It's just that if the students are really oriented at present time, they can be the future leaders by becoming entrepreneurs. And we are seeing this trend. There is marked increase in startups these days. Even sports tech startups are increasing in number in last 5 years, we will say. And this small skill can actually help them to create their own startups at their own end. So biggest problem with the founders is they don't have money. So if they have the skills at their disposal, I think they can reduce the cost in the startup, and they can actually build further solutions. And that's where I see that if India has to grow in sports tech market and the industry itself, acquisition of a lot of skills at founder level are more important, so that more crucial, I would say, which can solve a lot of problems. And you see examples of all the sports tech industry startups that are coming in Indian space. Many of these founders are from engineering backgrounds who have the basic skills, so they're banking on their skills and building the product, and that's where we are seeing the industry moving ahead.
Correct. I agree with that. And it is going to rapidly change in the coming years. And it can be seen also.
Absolutely. Thank you so
True.
much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, Amol sir, once again.